essentially this is my eulogy, the players rep. And I said that kind of last time we was on the post because it's not. I did everything I said I was going to do, but yet there's so much nonsense and literally, and again, I hate to use those words that everybody throws around, but buffoonery going on amongst ourselves to distract really what's happening. I continue to speak about daily as the world changes. That's why when you spoke to me earlier about going live and I talked about IP, about you really understand how this really works and how it's going to go going forward. If you don't protect and capture yours, it's going to be taken, it's going to be sold, it can be turned off. It can be. I've been getting my social media content like submerged for years. I mean, like basically suppressed, but it's not my platform. Twitter's not mine. I understand that. Facebook's not mine. I understand that. None of those are mine. I do have mine. That's why I built mine the way it is. So people see only a couple hundred followers, but I've changed the world. And that's what I'm going to speak to today, that without me, none of these people getting checks at all. Dion ain't coaching in Colorado because those things are transfer portal. All that ties back to me and what I've been doing. So when I say things publicly, purposefully to at POTUS or at Coach Past Your Prime, none of them say nothing back to me. And I did that on purpose before lining this up because I said to you before, there's always somebody that got something to say unless you understand who you're dealing with. And then at the end of the day, based off you just did a simple scroll down, you can step in if you want to. All these guys out there that got these public platforms so comfortable in their skin saying certain things a certain way. We'll speak about a lot of them. I'm naming names. But like I told you on your podcast a long time ago, 20 minutes publicly, me and them, their careers are over. Everything that they were doing is not tangible. They're not intelligible enough. And that includes Deion Sanders, that includes Stephen A. Smith, that includes Ryan Clark, every single person, white people included, Travis, Clay, all of them. And the reality is, so all the people right now that are jumping up and down, and I shared with you earlier, purposely to give you the Barbara Walters push. Meaning I'm leading, lining you up with some of these things I put on Twitter, specifically you as a employee and a small business owner, also former athlete, professional athlete, that the bloodline of this country, despite talking about illegal aliens and all this other stuff, that at the end of the day, a block of 17 to 22 to 23-year-old predominantly minorities are being told by the population at large to not become employees and pay taxes when that's what this country is built upon. Yeah. Literally talking about something that don't exist. So if you say NIL for athlete, you going back to the 3/5 of a human being. I refuse to let you get put in a situation talking about working. Like, what are we teaching? Professional, personal, athletic, and professional development is what I've done. So all the things that I've done across the board, representation-wise, content-wise, development-wise, education-wise, nobody in this industry has done what I've done. They have no statement of work, no nothing, but they stay talking. I mentioned them names too. Darren Heitness, the Witness of the world, the 1-3s, all these people just talking. Well, I'm showing you. And then the reality is when I'm pointing to these certain things, no one that's in media, no one's in the public eye, no one that's in politics, no one that's in the private employment sector saying, oh, he's wrong about that. As I said, owners negotiate with the league in the scenario. Athletes now have to negotiate directly with the teams. So from a business standpoint, they're getting employees. So again, they're their employee, but now their representation is also their own ownership. So, oh, you mean, but did I not bring Rashawn Gary as the first player ever in sports history as his own age representation, his own ownership group, people underneath him from business sense? But people talking NIL. Now, this is what this is about. This is about control, and it's about diminishing your value. Under a collective, if it's 10,000 of us under one roof, that's 10,000 pieces of pie to be cut. Business that makes zero sense. To say we're going to sign a uniform thing so if me being an A2 guy versus you, BallHawk, we got to split the same revenue. If you're a business owner smart about who you are, what you built at your platform, Pettyhawk, you should be pissed that somebody's laid to lock you into something that's diminishing your value. This is the modern day version of indentured servitude through SEO, through algorithms, through clicking on links. This is what it's all about. That's why Saudi Arabia paid $2.3 billion for IMG Academy, only to have all the little soccer girls come out there with their moms and their coffees. Give me your email address. I'll give you a plastic trophy. You on LinkedIn right now. Don't you see LinkedIn talking about, and I'm going to reiterate all this stuff live, but I want to give you a preset so you can basically know where to lead these questions. They ask you, you want a digital badge. But I talked about this years ago on your podcast about the freaking stars. They don't exist.
Yeah.
And the helmet stickers for ACL and risk management. Now, from micro machine learning, term influencer, hey, Ahmad, tell us about how you feel about these certain things pertaining to whatever the topic may be. You say that back to LinkedIn, they give you a sticker. You just tagged yourself like a branded digital slave that you just gave us your IP, your intellectual property. It's like a digital version, small order of Shark Tank. Oh, tell us your ideas. Well, we don't like that. The moment they get up on air, they call it, hey, for the R&D department. Like, yeah, let's go start this from there. Make sure you patent that, this and this and that. This is what's happening in real time in this world. And while we sit there talking about comedy beef, we are literally being lined up that anything outside of what we're told to do, how we're told to do it, we have no ownership, no development whatsoever. So that's what pre-post game was. There's no such thing as NIL. That's why I said it ain't going to be no, Congress stepping in. I said that to you too. Publicly. Yep. I said it years ago. Oh, they ain't going to do nothing. And I said it at whoever you want. You're not going to tell me nothing. You're not going to say, oh, all these guys talking about registering for agencies. Ahmad, I've been doing this for 3 administrations. I ain't changed one thing in my business model. Not Trump, not Biden, not Obama. And I ain't going to. But guess what else changed? Guess what changed their business model? NCAA, NFL, everybody changed to try to adapt the call. NIL was pre-post game. So I'm the plug. And the reality, as I said before, now that I did everything I said I was going to do, there's nothing else to do. People need to get out their own way. But like I said, it's about me this time around. I purposely try to help everybody elevate them to be what they need to be. And a lot of people literally still want to be ignorant about all these things. They want to get a bag. Don't know what a bag is, understand taxes. Like I said, you don't want to be an employee. You don't want to start a business. You want somebody to give you something to realize you got to pay the government for that. Mind you, they are basically using you as an expense without providing any value. So that's why the IRS says collectives can't get the 501c3 because the bottom line is, what are you providing? Well, what does pre-post provide? Personal, athletic, business, professional development, transition planning, IP protections, brand development, negotiation, on and on and on and on. It's not a person in this industry or any representation can do what I do. Not close. And that's why I said before, it's time where the people that claiming to be, once this is what it is, this is for, preservation. When I'm gone, my AI is still talking. But it needs to be understood, because what's going to happen in 5 years from now, as I said, there won't be no NIL, won't be no collectives. You'll be employees. You'll understand what that means. In Virginia, you are a business owner. You know that Virginia now is pushing, if you have over 25 employees, you got to do a pension plan for retirement. That's based off my work. When I said sports trafficking is real, I explained to people that all the people that represent these athletes getting money are not in their best interests. So when you really influence something, all of a sudden they say, hey, pre-post game, you can't operate anymore with Devin Willock in Georgia. You can't represent the number one youth soccer player in the world. You can't represent the number one recruit ever. You can't do that. Who gonna tell me that? And who business I won't own once they finish telling me that? So as I said before, this ain't gonna be for the faint of heart. Some of your friends probably gonna get dragged. It's okay. I'm wearing black.
Hey man, you gotta speak your truth. You all right?
No, that's the point. And that's why I said before, I can't really afford anymore to go back and pretend like we're not in some serious situation. That's why I said before, you're a business owner, you're an employee. So you understand what that is. So why in the world would someone out there say, again, all these guys are saying they want to represent, advocate for athletes. Why none of the pro athletes work with none of these NIL collectives? Why, if they represent the best interests of the athlete, why are they not doing it? Why is it all of a sudden now, was none of these lawyers, black or white, around when I represented the kids from Iowa? Only popped up when their money is now involved. Where was those same advocates again? Like I said, we ain't talk. NIL was established, as they call it, July 1st, 2021. I was on ESPN in 2019 telling them what's going to happen, and I told you in your class how all these coaches are going to get up and run up out of here, including Nick Saban.
Yep. Yeah.
That was all over again. So I'm here. Mark Emmert is gone. Nick Saban is gone. I want everybody to know it's because of me. But like it or not, I don't give a damn.
All right. So we go look. I'm glad you that's how you started off without an intro. Well, we're gonna get to the intro. We're gonna start it off. And hey man, it's an open forum.
That's some good stuff. You recorded it? I was rolling.
No, that's recorded.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, you know the new style. You give like you did it perfect. You gave him a gist of what you're gonna say before the intro. So that's how we're gonna lead into the intro right now, and we're gonna get it going. And
here, no drink champs, we're drinking water over here. Water.
Let's go. Well, we're gonna get it started right now. Let's go. What up, though? As you can see, man, this is a special edition of the BallHawk Show podcast. It's the one-on-one. It's like the Marvin Shaw with Michael Jordan type interviews. You know, get back in my one-on-one bag. So today's guest is somebody who's been a part of the BallHawk Show podcast journey from Podbean to Blog Talk Radio, now on Bleav Network. Got my man Robert T. Green, pre-post game, the players rep. You know, a guy that comes from the Arena Football League like myself, but was ahead of the game. I always say he's always ahead of the game, man. He's going to say some things to folks that he's been in my Twitter spaces and people thought he was crazy, you know, lack of better words. People always say somebody crazy when they say something that hasn't taken place yet or it's in the minority, even though it's making a lot of sense. But this gentleman right here, he's going to, I mean, I'm going to let him say all the groundbreaking things he's done. But when I tell you, if he come on your platform, he say something, it happens. Years ago, he said, when nobody else said it, Baker Mayfield is going to be the #1 pick in the NFL draft. And they laughed at him. Ain't no way. And what happened that night? Baker Mayfield was #1. He was going at Nick Saban for years. I'm telling you, Nick Saban going to get up out of here, BallHawk. What? Nick winning all these? All right. Lo and behold, what happened? Nick Saban. Deion, what you call him? Past your prime? Coach past your prime?
Past his prime.
You know, he had questions about him. Deion moves on and goes to Colorado. So without further ado, got my man Robert T. Green. We're going to talk about the elephant in the room, NIL, because a lot of people don't understand what NIL is. And this is an individual that I could is a very good resource for myself of better understanding the truth behind the NIL, not just NIL and the collectives, but the truth behind NILs. What's going on with you, Rob?
Man, it's a pleasure to be on your show. As you mentioned earlier, I've been here since the beginning and watched you start to build your brand, create your transition coming from a great arena football player where obviously when it comes to us, our careers are shorter in the sense of the compensation standpoint, but not necessarily the length of it. So when we have to go into the offseason, understanding what we got to do next to take care of our family, to develop further, understanding how much we missed when we were sitting in the rooms or generating revenue for other people, those interns getting those jobs we wanted, we were no longer playing. Just watching you how I've been able to grow and progress, it's really been a pleasure to watch. And I'm proud of all your successes, and I know you can do great things even more going forward.
Appreciate it, man. So before, you know, like I said, you've been on the platform a lot of times. So I want to be fair to folks who maybe this is their first time, you know, coming on the show or learning about you. Maybe they've been around since the Twitter spaces and the czars and all those guys just talking trash. But if you just give them a background of who Robert T. Green is, basically not the Robert T. Green we see today, but share your background as far as playing. Like you played arena football just like I did. So let them know about your playing career.
Right. And before I get to that, but how sad is that no one still knows my name right now? And that's what I came on to do, wearing black. Simply because, again, what I've been able to accomplish on and off the field over the last 25, 35 years across the board, to not be known in a sense by certain people in certain ways when you're actually either the forefather or the one that created certain things. It's a humbling feeling, but it's also a situation where now the time has come that people understand, and I set the record straight specifically to Rob T. Green. So me, I come from Long Island, New York, come from a broken home. Like I said, a lot of athletes that come from certain minorities and certain hood situations, which I came from. I was homeless at 16 years old. Thought the only way I could make it out of where I was at was either playing a sport or becoming a rapper. I can't rap. I got no game, none of that. So, but I was always a hardworking guy. I wanted to basically be successful, and I didn't want to see myself end up like a lot of the peers around me and also my family members. Full disclosure, I tell everybody, my dad had me when he was 44. My mother was 19. So there was no relationship, no father figure in the home. That basically once I became 10 years old, that man was 54 years old. He had no intention of throwing a football with me, talking to me about life skills and that nature. So basically, I grew up in the streets, watching my surroundings, watching how people, depending on how the sun went up and went down, they changed. And it always bothered me because I said before, like, it was just like yesterday, you were like a nice guy, you was a friendly guy, and all of a sudden you're a gang member the next day. And I never respected that. I never respected anybody that basically essentially couldn't be who it was when no one else was looking. And so for me, essentially, I made a promise to myself to work as hard as I possibly can to get myself out of those certain situations. Fast forward, I went to a junior college, Nassau Community College. At that time, we were ranked number 10 in the country as a whole for the decade, but we was actually highest ranked number 3. And essentially, I was ranked number 3 myself as a JUCO corner. However, during that time, when I was trying to get a Division I scholarship as a 6'1", 200-pound corner, extremely fast, legit 4'4", where I come from in a lot of areas, people don't want to see you succeed. Some things you see in a movie. So I'm going to educate your audience on things they may know and understand. It's like watching a Tubi movie. So here we go. Robert T. Green, he think he all that. He about to go this and do that. We don't want to see that happen. Long story short, I got jumped, shot 5 times, stabbed across the eye, the temple. 2 bullets still in my leg right now. I had 4 on my leg. Doctors told me 3 of them told me I'd never play sports again. At that time, I was depressed, thought my life was over, didn't know what I was going to do with myself. There was no one to turn to. And I essentially said a prayer to myself. I said, God, if you allow me to play football, I promise to be the best version of myself the rest of my life. But this is the key. At that point, I didn't know what that was. I didn't know what the best version of myself was. No one ever gave me the tools, the understanding, the knowledge, what I was capable of outside of me playing the game. Or being told I couldn't play anymore, what I did know was I was extremely hardworking and I was extremely attentive to detail. So it's essentially anything that went on around me, I was able to observe, to comprehend, and basically make a decision, decisive decision in real time. And so essentially I was able to play. I went to play at the University of Massachusetts for about a year and ended up going to HBCU. But in all those different areas, what I just said about the entire process, that it was all business. I was told what I wanted to hear, not what I needed to know. And all those things that I was told that I wanted to hear did not come to fruition. Essentially, they were all lies. Basically, and again, I started to ask myself, what decision did I ever make in life that was my own? And I ask athletes this all the time. I know the answer to the question already, which made me become the player's rep. Essentially, that most of us don't make any decisions on our own. Essentially, become 20 plus years old. And whether they know it or not, they go back and think about when they did make a decision, was it really your decision? Or was someone who basically told you it was the best decision for you? And then when you go full circle, you come to find out I'm right back where I am right now. But who was there when you back where you started? Who was there to support you, help you move forward from there? And what you find, most people are not. So fast forward through that, I get to arena football. I played 8 years throughout the country, not because I sucked. Essentially, I wanted to at one point coach when I no longer played. And so what I ended up doing was went from city to city, team to team. I was watching how GMs operate. I was watching how medical trainers operate. I was watching how workers' comp work. I was watching how the owners ran the building, because essentially being a coach, I wanted to give myself the best opportunity through the interview process to be able to get the job. After doing all that, watching how some of these coaches operated, because I became one, came to understand that a lot of these coaches are not who they say they were. They basically, again, tell you what you want to hear, not what you need to know. Knowing that all these guys, all they want to do is be great. All they want to do is maximize their opportunity as an athlete, but yet and still have no clue who they are, not what they're going to do after the fact. So whether it's in terms of finance, whether it comes to transition, whether it comes to fatherhood, whether it comes to being a good professional, they were like infantile in their mindset and also how they go about doing things. And then when it comes to the influence of social media or television, a lot of people that are glorified at the highest level are not who they post or who they pose to be. So it really got me to the point where I need to separate myself from everybody, to take this task on as what I became the player's rep, to essentially set the record straight and give the right perspective in personal, athletic, business, professional development across the board. And that's what we are today. And so essentially after 10 years as a professional in this space, as a representative, as an advocate, PR, media relations, negotiator, transition, and everything else, innovation through whatever field you want to talk about, my time in this space is essentially coming to an end simply because I did everything I said I was going to do. I didn't ask for permission. And as I said before, I've been here through 3 presidential administrations. My business model had changed one time. So I was doing this when Barack Obama was here. I was doing this through the Trump administration, and I was doing this through the Biden administration. So when I say NIL does not exist, it doesn't. But personal, athletic, business, professional development, and ownership does.
Hey, so if I could go back, so first of all, what did you major in when you was in college?
Psychology and sociology.
Sociology
and psychology.
And psychology. All right. So, because I want to make sure, young people, when they listen to this, because I remember when I was on my last leg of playing arena football, I had no idea what I really wanted to do. Like, I had an idea, like I wanted to be in media and talk about football and sports. But how did you, because the transition you made is not something that somebody could just jump into, like going to business like you did for yourself. So take me to that journey, starting the post game business, right, and the business model and learning how to negotiate and lead the youth to the next level.
Right. So when I did retire, I first started off, I was working in at-risk youth facilities. I was working with intellectual development disabilities facilities. I was also in leadership. I was also working with help write IEPs, individual educational plans. Yep. And I remember, I'll forget it, I was working in the Easter Seals where it was a doctor with a PhD and things of that nature. And we had this really troubled youth. And essentially, he would put people on workers' comp, like physically, like hurt them. People were scared to work with him. And then essentially they would call me in to come work with him as a one-on-one. And then I was able to work with him and not have the issues that everybody else was having. And they brought me into a roundtable one day with 13 doctors, case clinicians and everything else. And they asked me, well, how do you get him to listen? I said, basically, I meet him where he's at. I said the expectations. I talked about what he wants to accomplish and how to help him understand to get that way. I didn't dictate to him. I gave him choices and options and explained to him clearly what the results are going to be based off his actions and how far he could go and not go based off those certain things. And then I asked him how he feel about those things when essentially, if he didn't do it the right way, what was the result? Even with that, as a highly medicated, a highly aggressive young man, basically simply saying, like, you know what? He understood I was there to help him, that I didn't want to put my hands on him. I didn't want to defend myself against him. I didn't want to be combative against him. I simply wanted to understand where he was coming from and meet him where he was. That allowed me to go on to basically become supervisor in a lot of units and scenarios and give people directions on how to go about dealing with certain people, suggestions of that nature. And then, like I said, as I went forward in that, I became a director of residential services for certain other facilities with people with, like I said, disabilities or that intellectual disabilities, or essentially this day-to-day job placement and employment. And then what happened was, while I was going through that, I kept getting calls now by former teammates at 27 years old, asking me for advice and direction based on things that I spoke to them about when they were 21, 22. Some guys in the NFL, some guys prominent, some guys in the arena league. And essentially, all their response was back to me. I said, I thought I spoke to you about this before. And they said, but my agent said. I said, hold up. Your agent said. First of all, who was your agent? I was again talking about name, image, and likeness. There was words and terms that were thrown out, like coach, like agent, that you were giving up your actual ability to have critical thinking about processing the situation without no reason whatsoever else, because somebody said it on TV and someone else again directed you to do something that they said was best for you, unbeknown to you. So after that continued to happen over and over and over, and again, I've always been a stand-up guy. I stand on what I say. When people talk about standing on business, they don't even know what that means. Half of them can't even spell business. But the reality is, I've been standing on business for 25 plus years on doing what's right versus what's wrong. Despite the color, despite the age, despite the gender, the fact of the matter is, when you deal with people directly and you treat them with respect and dignity, safety and direction, you should be able to get that response back to you. But essentially, that's not what was happening. So when they would bring that, their agent said, I would explain to them in real time, like I said, when do you make the last decision for yourself? And help them understand at 24, 25, 27 years old, it is a shame how far you got right now and your own life that you're laying on somebody else who don't even pick up the call to speak to you. Just the facts, not the process. So when that started happening, I had to figure out a way to literally accelerate their processes, understanding the scope of all things we went through. So I wanted to be in the NFL as well. And so I'll go back from experience and go back to seeing things a certain way, as I said earlier, being understanding and knowledgeable of what happened in real time, processing it, not just taking an answer in without asking a question back. Even through my playing career, whether it's so if a coach or GM said something to me, or one time I was playing and I got injured, and one of the organizations told me I had to stay in the state that I was in versus getting light duty in the state that I lived at, where I workers comp. I said, I don't know who you guys talking to, what you think this is, but I know I can leave, and I know you're going to pay because I have a physical therapy place out there. You're going to pay me to go back where I came from so I can work and earn. And you're going to pay for the workers' comp based off the laws and the rules afforded to us under this collective body in this league. They never seen nothing like that before, and that's fine. I've been in places with the coaches in the middle of the night in arena when we practicing at 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock at night, when during the day they had us with sledgehammers, banging down walls, literally banging down walls with sledgehammers without any license, carrying boulders while trying to be professional athletes, and then having practice at midnight talking about you guys got to pay rent.
What was this at? I mean, it's a long time ago, so you can share about,
There was no Match Vegas before, again, the Players Rep. We helped build that block. That block where the Verizon Center is, where the WWE goes, that one block in Manchester called Match Vegas, that didn't exist back in 2003, 2004. So those buildings had to be built. And when they brought the players in, essentially that and again, Rick Richards, like I said, it's going to be a name type of scenario. This man was literally 2 years older than me, and he was calling us kid. Hey, kid, I'm not your kid. The disrespect and the lack of respect thereof, because you had the title coach, you met the wrong one. But they traded me at 1 a.m. literally, after I told all the coaches, we ain't paying no rent. And I said we, because like I said, I represent the players. That's kind of how this leads to everything down the road. Because the bottom line is paying rent to them. Mind you, we're working essentially illegally. They already got a problem with illegal workers. They have a problem with us with live wires and sledgehammers beating down the wall. The same team called the league and said, we don't want Robert Green, who was traded to Albany Conquest, to come back and play against Manchester. He's going to be arrested because he didn't pay rent. The league politely told him, you will not be arresting Robert T. Green because you ain't no right to collect rent from whatsoever.
Yeah.
And he's going to come back, and he played. And again, I played, and I was defensive player of the game and beat them. So before I became the official players rep outside in business, these things were happening in real time that literally I was always advocating, standing for. It wasn't a curse you out type of thing. It wasn't like I'm disrespecting you type of thing. I was never late for practice. I was always on time. I always stayed early. I came early and stayed late. I was always a team captain. You just wasn't going to walk over me and pretend like you got some over me when I'm the one generating revenue for you. That was never going to happen. And as I continued to evolve my thought process and my mindset, I started to speak to guys. And again, I found that it was groups, 12, 24, hundreds of guys that have been around. And I listened, I talked to them. And after they no longer played, they couldn't carry a conversation outside of football for 30 seconds. For 30 seconds. We spent, and we're talking business terms, 19 to 20 years to accomplish a dream from the get-go, with all the people around us talking about trust the process. And we couldn't even hold a conversation as a college-educated athlete for 30 seconds outside of the game that we played. It was crazy. It was heartbreaking. And I essentially said, you know what? I got to do something. And so what I did was I started formulating a plan about business. We could talk about race relations in sports all day long, but at the end of the day, what the bottom line is about business. So that's where the hashtag sports is all business came about. And then when I was trying to formulate the plan for my IP when it came to my company, I essentially talked about how this was actually going to work. As I said earlier, accelerate the process. So pre and post, as an athlete, we know that our most important part of our game was the pregame. 99% of us actually do the same thing over and over and over again. But it's not just because we're comfortable in it, it's because that's all we know.
Yeah.
So it's so that I said before, not making our own decisions was the part of the pre. After the fact, not having an actual understanding and knowledge who we were, what we're going to do next was the post. But then, like I said, the game came from that standpoint. That's what we were doing. We were part of the game. We was just the ones that pawns in it. We was never really set up to really succeed in it. We were just going through because, like I said before, in a business model where you have a draft and recruit process every single year, at the end of the day, and all you had to give us essentially was some type of stars, fictional stars, or helmet stickers to go out there and risk millions after blowing out our knee and risk management I really knew I had to start from the beginning. I couldn't basically do a business where guys are 19 and 20 because their indoctrination phase, really not understanding who they are and making uninformed business decisions started way before that. It goes back to the youth sports level and the AAU level. And again, when you talk about sports trafficking, all these guys go through this entire process from the start to the finish. They all end up in the same place. And so that's what the pre-post game was. And the pre-post game was directly for each individual person, just like you being the ball hawk who created your own entity, your own branding, and then had Petty Hawk as your alter ego, which we do over here pre-post game as well. So a mod can be a mod, but then at the same time, when you are an athlete, particularly a minority athlete, many guys struggle with being 6'2", 6'3", strong, big, aggressive, because in the real world, the public sector, a lot of people don't hire based off of that. I work with guys that are 6'5" plus and explain to them, like, we really got to work on understanding how you can do public speaking, understand your purpose, because at the end of the day, no one is going to hire your 6'5" self, 330 pounds to be behind a cubicle. Not necessarily because you're not a nice guy, because you don't smile. You've been taught to do one thing one way all your life, and now people just are afraid and not comfortable in that space. So if we talk about like Rashawn Gary, in particular, 6'5", 278 pounds. Rashawn Gary is a great young man, polished, public speaking. All these things have been proven and shown. Highest rated recruit ever in high school football. Only player to ever enter sports as his own sports entity, understanding business. But Bang Gary's nothing to play with. Bang Gary will knock you out. But the reality is Bang Gary only got a certain amount of time on that football field. Rashawn has way more to do in life and way more to learn and grow and understand besides football. And those same people through this entire process, we know, numbers show, are not going to be there. From a psychological standpoint, it's so jacked up that even from a team, we call it the team. You go from team to next man up in a matter of seconds. The brain is underdeveloped with people that you trust the process on to go from, hey, you're a team player, welcome, we recruited you here, now saying next man up is extremely debilitating. Going back to what I went through as a kid before those things. So reality is I didn't want to see those same things continue to happen. And we created an entire business model and infrastructure to actually ensure that we were educating yesterday, empowering today, and protecting tomorrow.
And you just brought up Rashawn Gary. Is he considered a linebacker or a pass rusher for the Packers? He got paid like a pass rusher.
He's a football player. So now obviously they go into a 4-3 defense. So he played as a defensive tackle in high school. He went to defensive in college. He got drafted as an outside linebacker in the NFL in the 3-4 system. The reason why I mention all that, because once again, when I talk about being the player's rep, not only do we do business, but I know the game, all of the games better than most. So I can have a conversation with the player and can relate to them and understand and speak to them and put them in positions, whether it's through training, whether it's through development on the athletic field, or even in the classroom, understanding what you're seeing on the field. In the scheme, whether it's cover 2, cover 6, cover 1 high, Xavier McKinney, do all of that. Lots going on between my ears. But the reality is, the player to understand that, then how they understand it relates back to them, he and they are able to accomplish whatever they want to accomplish because they set up for success from day one.
Yeah, and I asked that question because just recently you see the Cowboys communicating that Micah Parsons is now considered a defensive end and not a linebacker. So that, like, when I ask a question like that, that's like to a novice fan who don't know, like we know, we understand why they put those tags on players because they want to control the pay. When it comes to contract time, what are you viewed as? And like you said, he's just
so give me some free advice out there, because once again, the difference between Micah and Rashawn is 275 pounds. Micah is not. So when you're talking about contract situations, regardless of the fact, the game has a number of reps in your body. And so injuries are part of football and sports. So the fact of the matter is, bigger, faster, stronger means something. And you also know there's a lot of times in the game when it comes to how pay is dictated to, when coaches call certain plays, certain schemes, and everybody's been complaining and talking about it from the running back market. But like I said, on your podcast, I'll tell you today that Zeke signed his contract. He was never going to see the light of day on that. And I broke that down.
Yes.
And at the end of the day, people didn't understand what I was talking about. And just that fast, when it was Zeke, when they first did it, you don't even know his name. Most people come into the league now that's actually running backs don't know who he is. That's how fast it happens. So when you sign contracts for a certain number and you allow certain media pundits to go out there and talk about how great, how big it is to point towards certain organizations, those same media pundits will turn around and go back and say, hey, let's go back and see all those contracts agent such and such did and how that really play out. since they care so much about the athletes in their longevity, so much so. But that's not how it really is. We know what this is. It's set up to make it look a certain way for the first, so the ones behind you don't know no better, can follow through the same path, have the same result over and over and over again. That's also called insanity. Because it's simply, when you talk about the running back market, when I said about Aaron Jones in particular, 3 years ago when he first took the pay cut, when he was at the top of the league value, when I said, as the players rep, because again, somebody asked me that question, who you rep? Every player. Even though a lot of players shouldn't be rep by me because they're not doing things the way they're supposed to as a professional on the field. However, their business interest has never been at the forefront of society. It never has. And besides the fact that we come from off of a pandemic in 2021 and pre-post game been here since 2015, off of a pandemic where businesses are going out of business, money is scarce and tight, when same coaches were telling kids and their families when myocarditis is out there, they can go out there and the only men's basketball and women's basketball and men's football, coaches can't be there, students can't be there, faculty can't be, but the players can be there in the pandemic playing. For what? Oh, again, there's scholarships, not understanding financial aid, not understanding this fast, but not understanding how this really was set up from 1906 and 1905 between W. Du Bois and the Brown versus Board of Education. I'm not going to go off too much of a tangent, but when I said before, I want people to understand, when I did what I did, I understand the full scope of how we got here. So when I understood that, I knew exactly what to do to get us here today. And I wanted to make them know that I'm the reason for it. And I'm the only reason for it. It's not your congressman. It's not Nick Saban. It's not Coach Pass's prime. It's not your high school elite coaches. It's not the 5 stars. So every athlete is collecting a quote-unquote NIL check. They don't understand what a CPA is. You're welcome, but then you're not. Because the reality is that money has to be taxed. And if you keep collecting without paying and don't have the right people around you, you're going to cost you in the long run. And so essentially, I don't want to see that happen. But as I said before, when I talk about sports is all business, you got to understand everything that's going on around you is not what meets the eye.
So let's get to pre-post game. And we talked about Rashawn. Was Rashawn like your first client, or was he the first client that pre-post game really was set on the map? Like, how did that marriage come about?
Great question. And all your audience will appreciate this. No, Rashawn wasn't our first client. But the reality is, at the time that we went after Rashawn, like I said, I'm a businessman and one that understands what needs to happen. I had no time to waste, had no time for someone to talk about, well, yeah, that's great. You did that with that kid. What about this kid? At that point in time that we recruited Rashawn Gary, and I can't talk about what we do recruit.
Yeah.
We recruited based off of our value proposition. We didn't have any referrals. I didn't know his mother. I didn't know his family members. We ain't from the same bloodline. I didn't coach his youth football team. None of the above. I came to the young man and his parent and said, this is what we do here. This is how we get you from here, 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 and here. And essentially said, day one, if nothing that I say isn't true, the day of, never speak to me again. Well, 11 years later, highest paid player in Green Bay Packer defense history, as well as the University of Michigan, as his own sports agency. The first player to ever trademark his name and his actual IP in college was done under pre-post game. Essentially, I would say we got it right. And so that was the point. The point was I was doing these things with other people. And essentially, when we wanted to roll it out, talking about the development stage, Sean was 16. And essentially, through our pre-post game academy, sports business accelerator, asking a simple question, like I ask anybody, what do you want to be when you grow up? Simple question.
So you had an academy?
Yeah, we have pre-post game academy. So the first sports business accelerator. So I got a nice little quote that I say all the time. I said, you'll never know if pre-post game is in the room, but the player's rep is always in the cloud. And what that means is that I've been using SaaS, software as a service, cloud technology, for 12 years. As you know, I have an AI, my own AI and things of that nature. So talking about development, understanding where the world goes next, when we as pre-post game are checks and balance system. So we never told anybody, including Rashawn and any other client, don't speak to that person, don't speak to this person. We simply told them and helped them understand what they were trying to accomplish and taught them how to conduct the interview process. Case in point, any athlete right now that's a first round pick, and this is, I'm giving this free game. Or any agency that you're going to sign with right now, no matter what they're talking about, in a sense, because pre-post game was responsible for y'all get NIL checks, it shouldn't be a problem anymore. Because back in the day, what agents would do, they would basically take the money that they had already, they would throw it at you, the bag.
Yes.
And they will get you on the front end, they're going to get it from you on the back end because you don't understand the contract that you're signing and the numbers and the language that you're signing. But the only thing you did was you saw somebody else sign. But the person that asked you to sign, told you to sign, was telling you to tell you to do that because they was getting a referral kickback fee by making you do that.
Yep.
That's the fact, the process. But you never asked that question because that was your boy. That was your frat. That was your homie. So at the end of the day, all these things that literally what we did was basically from a checks and balance system, we taught from the beginning, self-worth, mental health. I'm happy and prideful to say that no one was speaking about mental health when it came to athletes before me. So when I talked about what are the main reasons why, again, my background with intellectual development disabilities and crisis interventions and things of that nature as a mandated report. See, I'm saying all these words. I've been in the room.
That's educational terms you put out there, mandated reporter.
Exactly. I've been everywhere. So when I talk and speak on things, I'm so versatile in what I've done. I don't find anybody that's from a representation standpoint that can do or say what I've done. So when I take these things and I put it in perspective, and then essentially we go back and say, well, you literally shouldn't have been able to do certain things without having a checks and balance in that. No one was ever presented that to these players, these athletes. So when you say something to them, they had an academy, they had a reference point, they had an example to basically check the person that spoke to them. So once again, going back to those agencies and those agents, if an agent says, oh, we definitely want to represent you, and they say, hey, ask the question. So what round am I going to be in? Oh, you're definitely a first round pick. Definitely. Okay. Now, next question from the interview process. Tell me what your value proposition is for me without mentioning anybody else you work with. Because I'm Rashawn Gary. I'm not Matthew Stafford. I'm not a quarterback. Don't tell me about you representing this guy and this guy and this guy. Tell me what you're going to do to help increase my value. Since you just told me before I compensated you, I'm already a first round pick with no doing of yours whatsoever. Crickets. So when you ask that question about why I went about doing it, I wanted to make a simple point. The best there is, I'm the best there was, I'm the best there will be. Checking from the great Hitman Hart. So for everybody that wanted him at that time, Nick Saban, Apple Sweeney, and everybody else, all the way up, the Rosenhaus Sports, the athletes first, everybody else, they making their pitch, they're making their pitch. Clearly their value proposition wasn't good enough. And you go 6 years later, as I said before, where people should know also as well, that Rashawn Gary has the highest signing bonus as for a non-quarterback in NFL history. From a non-quarterback that's African American. Let me chase that. He's third behind Joey Bosa and TJ Watt. Oh, by the way, Rashawn never had 10 sacks, never made the Pro Bowl. But what he does have that no one else has is professional development. What he has and no one else has is character. What he has, he's not out there again representing an organization like the Green Bay Packers, basically putting things out there every day that literally can basically devalue the organization that he works for as an employee. Mind you, he has his own company as his owner as well. So he understands that. Rules of engagement. Go past playing the game. And the fact of the matter is, in 2024, we have taken 10 steps backwards with the representation in this space. I'm talking about coaches. I'm talking about sports agents. I'm definitely talking about these collectives and NIL that does not exist. Because the fact of the matter is, without the athlete bringing value to those people, what value, as I said before, are they bringing to them? There is none.
You know what? So we here, right? And I we just gonna have a conversation now. This ain't an interview no more. Because you saying stuff that I just want to like stay. I want to stay here right now. Mm-hmm. Collectives. I see so many universities. The university I cover, we have a collective as well. What's to the fans? What's a collective? Because some folks just say, "Oh, collective is just a way for donors to channel money," and then it goes right to the players' pockets. You have some collectives that want to help student athletes create their own LLCs, and as you stated. But in your opinion, what's the true reason these collectives are coming out the woodworks?
because it's control. Everything's control. So you go with the term collective at NIL. It's just like the acronym NCAA. It's a good cop, bad cop. It's just like when you was going through the recruiting process and the coach would promise you everything of recruiting. And then once you get to the school, they say, oh, we wanted to do it, but the NCAA say no. No, they all in this together. Because of the players repping pre-post game, exposing this for what it was. Again, pre-post game, like I said before, did what we did without permission. And then you come out about the NIL. That's what I said before. Now you come out with the collectives. The reality is, if you, Ahmad, Petty Hawk, BallHawk show right now had something to provide of value, and you basically wanted to deliver that, and I'm the one going to compensate you. Do you need Czar to give the money to Czar to give it to you? Is that what you want me to do?
Nope.
Do you want me to give the money to Czar, and then Czar can give it to you, and then Czar can say, basically, I gave it to Ahmad, and Ahmad is now my business expense and a tax deduction? Or does Ahmad say, I want to own my LLC company, I want to create my stuff, I want to basically get my business expenses, I want to protect my IP, I want to grow in that business, I want to establish that relationship with Robert without the middleman, Czar, and for your audience who need it even simpler, like Czar, pimp to the prostitute. Sports is a game where you're going to play and you're going to do things a certain way till you can't do it anymore. And once you can't do it anymore, history is showing us people will release you, get rid of you, throw you away at the highest level, high school level, college level. Mm-hmm. Anytime that you basically now allow someone to be the in-between you and someone else, so you don't really establish a relationship, not only diminish your ability to grow yourself, but also minimize your margins. Again, monopoly. Collectives buy up Boardwalk and Park Place. But they also got the other corner wrapped. You come around there, before you get there, 10,000 of you guys is in that collective. They pick and choose now who they deal with. The collective now is the one that really has to deal with Boardwalk and Park Place. You are no longer valuable to them. You're just a little house that can be wiped out. And so the reality is how they do these things, essentially saying that we're going to come in, we're going to do this and do that for you. They have done nothing that I mentioned earlier that pre-post game is done. And the pre-post game is not saying collectives who started all this, who creates personal, professional, business, and athletic development and ownership. And we're providing all this value to you. And we're not saying, hey, we're going to basically get in between you and your money. We are a service provider. Our service, our statement of work, our SOW is tangible. It can be seen. It's a price tag. That's the whole point. So the NCAA can't say, yo, you can't work with Robert. There's no one that can say they can't work with me in pre-post game and Robert. Because like any other American citizen, as a small business owner, I'm providing tangible, valuable services, whether it's brand development, contract negotiation, review, hiring certain people and things that we do. And again, the reason why I can't even block my website a lot of times right now, because there's a lot of university, quote unquote, collective representative, Luke Fellum being one, naming names, at The Ohio State University, been copying and pasting my website for 7 years. You are not me. You are not us. 99% of people in this space are not player advocates. They are player capturers. And when I mean capture, that's what they're trying to do. These people are trying to capture these athletes and put them back in the bottle. As I said before, because of technology, understanding AI, things of that nature, and when they talk about DRM, digital rights management, there's a strong push right now. Saudi Arabia, talking about IMG Academy, all those guys played this. Saudi Arabia paid $2.3 billion for IMG Academy so they can have tournaments left and right where everybody comes and gives their IP, their email address, third party to be sold. There's all these private equity firms now all of a sudden buying up youth organizations. Don't know the first thing about any sport, much less when you got Dexter Gervin signing over, what he signed over 25% of future earnings for $490,000 because the people that represented him thought he was going to be a first-round pick. Again, college educated. But you don't see all these powers that be, these pundits, the same ones that you know and love, Pivot, I Am Athlete, Shannon Sharp, Stephen A. Smith, or they don't talk about none of that. One, they ain't capable of it. Two, they're not qualified. Three, it's just they part of that system. We want to do comedy rap beefs. It's beneath me and it's beneath them. And I mean say them, I mean the actual up-and-coming future generation of athletes, entrepreneurs. And at the end of the day, if they don't understand that sooner than later, that indentured servitude I talked about, again, people are going to be crying, complaining. You have these lawyers that pop up out of nowhere, these hashtag chasers. That's what they are. Like I said before, repeat, your audience should know as well. I'm the one representing the athletes for the University of Iowa. for public relations and media relations. Before I did that, there was no lawyers, white lawyers, black lawyers coming to our defense to try to help us with those athletes. It took me 4 months to do what I needed to do. The worldwide leader did not want to give the same platform to me as my clients as they gave to Kirk Ferentz. By the way, 3 down, 1 to go. When I say 3 down, I mean Chris Doyle was the highest paid strength coach in college football, nowhere to be found. His son, Brian Flores, who couldn't score more than 10 points a game, it seemed like in the last 5 years, nowhere to be found. Gary Barter, who was the commissioner of the college football committee, gone, nowhere to be found. Kirk, you're next. And the reality is, as I said before, I didn't come on here to pretend like I'm not solely responsible for all this. But after those 4 months and I did what I did, the way we did it, now everybody want to pop up and say, "Oh yeah, now here we got the settlement of $490 million for Richard Anderson in Michigan. Oh, we got the $500 million settlement for the $500 million settlement for Simone Biles and the rest of the gymnasts under Dr. Larry Nassar." Where is he saying public figures? He's saying people that got these platforms speaking on that. Mind you, as I said before, none of that happened to the players who got the $4.2 million historic settlement for players at the University of Iowa. And therefore, again, still we mentioned in the beginning, not knowing my name. How? Their statement work don't match up with mine. So when I talk about being a true advocate, true representative of athletes, the only person that should be in Congress speaking on these things, how it need to go, is me. There's no one on that floor in a Ted Cruz roundtable, including Darren Heitner, who was begging us and me specifically when we did Rashawn Gary's IP. But yet somehow Darren Heitner is out there telling everybody he's representing athletes. How do you tweet 60,000 times in your lifetime and then say you represent athletes? It's not possible. I know I represent athletes. But at the same time, me watching this stuff day in and day out, people just assuming we so unintelligible in all that we do. Because our leaders are like Shannon Sharp, who want to talk about something happened 50 years ago with Monique or Cat Williams. Like, I care. I'm reviewing documents. Or Coach Passes Prime, talking about business is business, but then turning around talking about kids, are we coming and we going? Like I told them, you need to worry about understanding situational football. Don't worry about these kids' pockets, what they're getting paid, because you want to be Nick Saban Jr. The fact of the matter is you had the worst offensive line in college football, give the most sacks and the most penalties. You know what that means about penalties? That means you lack discipline, but you lack discipline since you was a kid. Yet the media in the world put you out front to be a leader about whose terms and whose design. But see, that's the thing. I told everybody this before you got to the HBCU. Your qualifications was what? Coaching youth football with a chain, with a hood on and sunglasses on inside? Come on, man. These are serious times we're in right now. Serious times. And I ain't in no position to play around when it comes to these things, when it comes to these youth, as I happen to be one back in the day, that I had nowhere to turn. But like I told you when I started this interview, I did everything I said I was going to do the way I said I was going to do it. And I needed to go about setting the record straight for those when I'm no longer here. The players rep, as I said, live in the cloud. Pre-post game, may be in the room, may not. You don't know. Mm-hmm. Everywhere. But the players rep is always in the cloud. So for all you out there that's claiming to be somebody you're not, you should be very careful because it's not about sports. This is business. I can show you my LinkedIn right now. It ain't sports people looking at my LinkedIn. It's people that write code. It's people that understand AI. It's understanding that people that basically about financial planning and fintech. So when I talk about financial literacy, based off, there's nobody in this country outside of what pre-post game do that says, hey, Ahmad, did somebody go in your collective talking about, hey, how you athletes going to do when y'all retire? When most of y'all play a sport, it might be done when you're 22 or 23. Meanwhile, we got kids in college playing football today, 29 years old and 9th year eligibility. Make it make sense. Which is it? In a country where everybody's talking about illegal immigration and borders and work and taxes, how is a large block, black and white, male and female, sitting there trying to stop 17 to 25-year-olds who have the ability to generate all types of revenue to develop from them earning as employees and small business owners and to pay their fair share of taxes? How? You telling on yourself. You're fraudulent. Because when them same kids don't become employees and they're 23, 24, those same people telling you, hey, we want you to collectively bargain in NIL, you're not going to be there to get them a job. They can't conduct an interview process. They can't have a conversation outside of the game they once played. And then who's responsible now? What your youth coach going to be doing? Your AAU coach going to be doing? Your mom and your daddy going to be doing? I know what you're going to be doing. You're going to keep your mouth shut because I've seen it 1,000 times over because you want to remain on the sideline for the upcoming bowl game or the conference championship. You want to get on the sideline because you ever speak up really happened to you, you won't be able to get that T-shirt. As I said before, man, this game is a vicious game. We traded in picking cotton for wearing it because it said champion on it. Not about life.
Yeah, I mean, you dropping a lot of jewels, and we stay on this NIL topic because I think there's a lot of misconceptions out here in the world because everybody keeps saying that the NIL is ruining the game that they fell in love with. They can't watch the college game anymore because they feel like players are looking for handouts. They're not working for anything. Why would you get money based off what you did? I had a conversation with somebody who was irritated that college athletes are getting NILs before they play college football. And I said, well, don't college athletes get endorsements before they get to the NFL? Like when they go into the draft, they get endorsements. They're like, well, they earned it based off what they did in college. And I'm like, but they never played professional and they're getting paid as a professional from the endorsement. What's essentially the difference? And I think a lot of people, and you just said it, like they basically going off what they've been taught, the status quo. They don't want to step outside the box because it's like a comfort zone for them. And this NIL is even how you just, talked about the collective. Because my main thing is like, I can hear a listener now, right? Hearing what you said about collective. Their response would be, well, what do you do as a business? Like, do you take a percentage or do you charge a flat rate? So if that question was brought up to Robert T. Green,
great question.
Between your business and a collective for college athletes.
So one, the work that we do at pre-post game, no one does. It's not an agency in America. The biggest ones in the world can do what we do. And I'm gonna preface this when I talk about what's happened, and you can say what we did here pre-post game was now NIL reflects directly to the Auto Workers Union as well as to the SAG-AFTRA groups. So when at the end of the day, when he talked about Terrence Howard talked about what money he didn't get paid for certain movies based off the leverage he didn't have because of what was negotiated on his behalf or where everybody's underneath that umbrella, it's the same premise. Those are collective. So let's take that from that standpoint from there. Terrence Howard, all money's not good money. Athlete A, all money's not good money. So where'd that money come from? Where's that money going in to hold me over, to keep me under the umbrella? Is that money there to help develop me to be where I'm at? So pre-post game and our pay point, our values. So if you needed a consultation for something, that has a value to it. That's transactional. If you have a ability, you want to build a brand or create some type of content or put some type of message out, PR, that's a billable a service. If you basically say, in a marketing scenario, we negotiate a contract and look at certain things and hit the terms, that's a negotiated contract. So no, we don't do percentage. You know why we don't do percentages? Because the percentage basically, the way that was set up is like when people don't really understand what you're getting in that value. And like I said before, unfortunately, most people, if I said something worth $150,000 and cost that, but yet if you said 2%, you feel like that's better. But then you don't understand 2% of say 150 million is way more than 150,000. But people just don't want to hear the truth about what business really is. So you can't really do a SWOT analysis, which is again the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats of your client specifically, which we do person-centered, unless you know all the variables that they got going into their situation. We do. So we can pinpoint that and we can charge to that, we can invoice to that. And at the end of the day, two things happen in this country when someone like myself speak out the way I do. I either get sued or the media clowns me publicly and say, I don't know what I'm talking about doing. Just like when Rashawn came out, they said, what is Darren Ravel? I don't think that was a smart move. 2 million viewers. You don't think coming out, going to college to school, understanding what you want to do for a living and putting yourself in a situation financially to represent yourself and your family for the future is good business, Darren Ravel, and your 2 million followers that know you for basically highlighting speaking on gambling? Like I said, me explaining myself and answering to people who never walked 2 steps in my shoes based off their social platforms or their followers or their bank account, it's funny to me. That's why I said before, at the end of the day, what we do and how we do it isn't about what anybody else say, what anybody else do. They can't do what we do. They haven't done what we've done. That's why they make it up as they go along. And that's the sad part, as I said before, uninformed, uneducated, underrepresented athletes. But once again, what are athletes? Human beings. If there's a state law in Virginia, a state law in Texas, and if I, Mark Zuckerberg, can start Facebook in my dorm, and I can get paid for that, and if I swing a bat I should get paid for it too if it's generating revenue. So I could care less. And as you know me personally, let me tell you all, I could care less who watches this, who finds out what your thought process are, how these people who happen to be employed, just like your employed audience, because you don't go to your coworker and ask them, should I take this raise based on the work that I put in to feed my family?
Mm-hmm.
Or should they have to basically explain themselves to you or anybody else, despite the fact? And what's really telling is, like I said before, as all this going along, you haven't heard one sports agent come out and say nothing about NIL. You know why? Because they've been doing stuff where they've been doing it behind the scenes through the sports trafficking since the beginning of the time. Ain't nothing changing their business model either.
Nope.
They still getting funneled to them directly, and then they still signing these fraudulent contracts that Ian Rappaport makes sound a certain way this year. Then next year, oh, you got released. You don't say it as loud. What the players rep do. Who told you to sign a $90 million Zeke Elliott contract? Is that guy still certified by the NFL and NFLPA? Who told you to sign with that financial advisor? Because you saw his name and his picture hugging a coach on his Instagram. Is that how you go about hiring people? Because he hung out with another friend? How do you go about basically talking about what this guy did and what type of money or assets he managed because you saw him at the Pro Bowl? All this stuff is simple-minded, low-level situations that people that are generating and making a whole lot of money are operating, and it's sickening. But the sad part about it is the powers that be, the most part, the great LeBron James don't know how the NCAA work. Just the facts, not the process.
No, he don't. He didn't go to college.
Yeah, and that's the point. So when you have platforms, you speak on certain things. Mind you, I do know. Yes. But why is it that my platform, although you may not see a lot of followers, trust and believe the industry know exactly who I am. I spoke directly to them about every situation you see here that we would not be a part of, like giving away Rashawn Gary's IP that we protected. So no influencer. I don't care your relationship, partnership with the NFL, anybody else. We're not going to give up pictures that you're going to sell of him that we can get our own cameraman and then basically pay and get those things done ourselves. You can run them through Getty Images. Now we good on that. We understand photography. We know what that looks like. We're not a copyright and patent trademark because we started it.
Yeah. So when you talk about trademark and patent, go back to Rashawn coming out of Michigan. He goes to the NFL draft, and what is he wearing?
This pen right here, this logo right here, the first logo ever trademarked in NCAA history, in front at his own event with 100 million people watching. You're talking about marketing strategy.
And he also went, not to cut you off, I said draft. I mean, even the combine, correct, right? When he was up there at the podium, he had
all that stuff is still online right now. You can Google Rashawn Gary draft. The intellectual property's there. It ain't going nowhere. And at the end of the day, you will know who Rashawn is outside of the game because at the end of the day, he built his own. As I said, what pre-post game is ownership and professional development. No more, no less. What comes along with that, we have done, second to none. But at the end of the day, to say that you are an advocate for an athlete, you represent an athlete, you got the best interest in the athlete. I could run down 5 or 6 agents and agencies right now where athletes got all types of problems. So why I said it before, as a player's rep, let's just be clear. Antonio Brown, not a good person. Why I know that's your boy? Because his daddy wasn't a good person. I carried Eddie Brown to the bar around Albany a few nights. What you think is about to happen? Like I said, as a minority, as an African-American, as a professional, I'm going to stand on what's real about what's what. I'm not wearing no hat that got things falling out left and right to get attention about what I'm saying. Because his daddy was selling him like hotcakes when he was 10 years old too. So him arguing with 17-year-olds, him being 40 almost, don't shock me whatsoever. You are who you surround yourself with. And the bottom line is because you have some type of platform, some type of following, don't mean you that dude. It don't mean you that dude. Because like I said before, when it's all said and done, you're going to want Robert T. Green on your side when it comes down to something. If you ain't do it right, trust me. Ask the kids from Iowa.
Yeah, let's stay there. How did the Iowa situation come about? Like when they reached out, like so one of the kids reached out to you?
No, it's how it always goes as the players rep. Because once again, everybody claimed to be somebody that they're not, but the only one person that's actually done things in this space to say they really advocate, represent these guys It's me. There's been so many athletes across the board, young, old, Power 5 schools, Division 1, Division 2. Can you help me, Robert? Can you help me? I've spoken to lawyers, quote unquote, colleagues throughout the years. Never touch it. Never touch it. But they're lawyers. And so when I try to explain to athletes, man, your best bet is to stay out of trouble. Because the bottom line, the lawyer's not there to stop you from betting and pay that retainer for them. They're there to wait for you to screw up, Deshaun Watson, and collect. And the reality is, since nobody in your circle who represents you didn't tell you it's not in your best interest to run around and massage polish this, and that. It don't matter what you did or you didn't do. It's just common sense. And as a professional, know where you want to go to understand your role and responsibility in society. And people want to dance around and not talk about it. They want to act like they go the other way. But they don't want to talk about something that makes no sense. I don't care about your record sales. I don't care if your album dropped or flopped. I don't care what you wear and who your wife is. I don't care. I don't care what's in your closet, how many sneakers you got. I know this. This is what I care about. Michael Jordan's worth $2 billion. Nike's worth $200 billion. Let's talk about IP and intellectual property, how that happened. Let's talk about how LeBron James IP. Let's talk about Kyrie IP. Let's talk about Kevin Durant's IP. Let's talk about all these guys. Osaka. Let's talk about Rafael Nadal's IP. Belong to Nike. You know who don't? Guess.
Rashawn?
Just the facts, not the process.
Oh, so LeBron don't own it? I thought for some reason
to logos in the United States Patent and Trademark Office, and you will find that LJ, and it says owner, nice and clear, right there. But see, once again, even creating logos and owning logos, because when it comes to the IP and the trademark office, you can't just create a logo and put it out there because it's got to go through a process. I understand that process. We teach that process. We bill for that process. And then we create IP and intellectual property to understand and meet the need of our clients. Those things matter. When Michael Jordan is no longer here, talking about residuals, when you go to see that Jordan logo, it says own Nike. You can say all day long what he got. But let's talk about business and margin. So we talking about collectives. That's essentially what a collective looks like. You get 2, we get 200 because we got everybody. Even though you're the only reason why they somebody. See, in my model, why you don't know me? Because it's about them. But you won't know me on the way out, though.
I like that, though. You don't gotta know me, you know them.
Yeah.
You should know me.
You should know me. Because what you see, exactly. As I said before, we may be and may not be in the room, but we always in the cloud.
I mean, it may be like how it was initially when he was active, but I know everybody know him now. But like Al Heyman in boxing, like nobody knew of Al Heyman until Floyd started really saying him. Nobody even knew what he looked like. But then he became more prevalent. But he still never did interviews. But it was out there that he was doing great business for these boxers, and then they created PBC. But I like what you just said. You should know me. Why would you want to know me? It's about them. Because a lot of time with these collectives, a lot of fans just think essentially it's an assembly line of money going directly to players. And it's far from that. Because you put out a tweet today that I wanted to discuss that really caught my eye. You say all these athletes in high school and college want to go to the pros, but none of the pros are working with any of these NIL collectives for representation. We do. Why aren't pro athletes working with these collectives, in your opinion?
Oh, it's not an opinion, it's a fact. It's
I mean, yeah.
As I said before, it's not. I didn't need to say that.
No, in your opinion. I'm talking about like why do you feel like that? I'm not saying what you said was opinion.
Service value. That's why I said value propositions. When you're a collective, you basically saying that you got something for them. These guys that are pros, that's why I said NIL does not exist. If you're going to tell me, and no matter what state you say, and that's why I talked about the people from Open Doors that aren't qualified to be speaking on what Caitlin Clark should be doing, talking about what she can get from Iowa when she's losing to go in WNBA. If Caitlin Clark is a business entity, is a professional, understands public speaking and contract negotiation, she can get paid anywhere. And why would she allow a collective to now diminish her value directly to the person that wants to work with her? As I said before, it makes zero sense.
Zero sense.
Zero sense. So the fact is that you come in Open Doors and say, hey, we're doing this for athletes. You've never done anything I've done for athletes. You shouldn't be advising the athlete. you shouldn't be saying anything whatsoever. So the same way we talk about these things is like, hey, they're not working with them because the bottom line is the pro athletes that are there. Why aren't these same deals and opportunities that are there for the same guys? It's control. There's 1,400 guys in particular in the NFL. There's 400,000, 90,000 collegiate athletes, if you will. So is you saying that, okay, the collectors now want to help support 490,000 where they can't support 1,400 in the NFL that already have a public platform and figure? No, they're saying you don't know what you're doing, and they can take 490,000 people and spread our wealth, collect y'all like poker chips. We want to pay, shuffle the money around. That's why the IRS said, no, you guys can't be 501c3s. But see, back in the day, what boosters used to do, like I said before, a booster would come in and donate $1 million to the school. And then that same school basically put that kid who's about to be a top draft pick right in front of the boosters to sign all type of memorabilia. The booster now got the deduction based off their contribution. They took the memorabilia and sold it for profit. Trust the facts, not the process. But again, been there, understand how it go. Don't like it, pay the players, no pay, no play. That's why I said making them employees gives them human right protections, benefits, things that they have to learn and understand like any other God-fearing American taxpaying citizen. How in the world do you dare jump in and tell these people who happen to be athletes how they need to go about getting their money when you can't do that with anywhere else in any other state in this country? And then to turn around with a straight face and act like you're doing what's best for them. When, as I said before, you wasn't here in 2021. When I started this thing with Iowa, you would nowhere to be found. Nowhere. You wasn't talking about none of this stuff when we did with Rashard and the other players. Nowhere. But now you're here saying, we got this for you. And like I said, I don't want to make sure I don't miss anybody because a lot of athletes are paid for play as well. I'm talking about professionals. Mouthpieces, got platforms, are paid to say and do certain things, still ain't made no decision in your life, and you still 30 plus years old age. Your producers tell you what to do, tell you how to do it. They tell you what to say and how to say it. And the reality is you waste 3 hours of our day telling the world you don't shower or you go in a certain college with your wife, like who cares? And then you want to make it seem like you're doing some power roundtable. As we talked about in the beginning, Ahmad, you and I, whether your audience liked it or not, we were doing quote unquote podcasts and blog talk radio when we talked sports business before any of these people came about. Yeah. You were doing this. You were. I know why they did that. That's to counteract what I'm talking about. It's like he and Gigi. And just so you know, the stuff that I talk about now, it ain't like I kept it to myself. All the powers that be, all the mainstream people that's out there, before when they was on Sports Center 66, Jamel Hills, the Michael Wilbons, the Stephen A. Smith, I sent DMs to all of them. No response. I ain't worried about it. Like I said, I'm in the cloud. The job still got done. Don't need your mouthpiece. But you got now today, a little shift. Everybody's a podcaster. Everybody's an influencer. Perfect example. You got guys that are failed financial advisors start a podcast. Now I want to talk about financial literacy. Make that make sense.
Nobody gonna take time to research them either.
At the end of the day, did they help negotiate a $100 million contract? At the end of the day, did they basically onboard anybody's company and give them a generational wealth to help them understand their IP, protect their next interest? Did anybody do that? What are we talking about? Earn your leisure. You talking about business? Talking about standing on business? What business?
I do like what you said earlier that I would like to really tap into somehow, like try to, because you know the running joke last week was Kirk Cousins' agent should be in the Hall of Fame because the contracts that Kirk Cousins has gotten. But when you talk about a guy like Zeke or any other of these players that signed the bad contracts, it's like, how come we don't like document which agencies really be out here having these guys, for lack of a better term, sign these 360 deals like they were artists and they really don't get the money?
Ask you a question. Is it legal in America to be a monopoly business-wise?
Yeah.
It's not.
Oh, it's not?
No. A monopoly means you control everything. It means you don't have the ability to basically be able to have proper trade and market value when everybody's there. But when you talk about the same sports agencies represent 88% of the actual players that come about, and when they basically make deals after they got guys under certain contracts and make deals with new guys coming up, and you throw out a big number that looks a certain way that's backloaded, that kid that's in high school and college can't count, can't read, don't understand that. And then when you have 5 guys on one team and one guy gets a good contract with the other 4 don't, they don't know any better, and they repeat the process. But at the same time, they all doing the same type of thing. You ain't gonna never hear about anybody doing these things. I'll give you a perfect example. Mr. Ian Clark is Rashawn Gary's agent. During the process of hiring Rashawn Gary's agent, pre-post game was tasked to do so. We had some specific points of references that we needed to basically check off to make sure we had the right person in place. Mr. Clark has more than most, several. But at the time, Mr. Clark is a high value, reputable attorney, a lot of different areas, IP attorney, litigation, arbitrator, integral man, also African-American, but at the time never represented anybody outside of a free agent. Asked me if I cared, it didn't matter. The development of the client or where they were going to go was already in place. All that person had to do is not jacked it up in a sense from the beginning. Now, through the years, as I mentioned earlier, the same person has never had a client that was undrafted free agent now has a client who has the highest signing bonus, non-quarterback in NFL history. Now, why is that relevant in the way we negotiate? Because I've said on your show and my platform for years, and when it comes to football, your best job and your best way to get what you get is to get a bigger signing bonus or upfront money, and then continue to be a professional, take care of your body. That I don't care what the language say. I don't care how they say it. I don't care what they put it out. But now, instead of saying, hey, Mr. Clark, great job. That's a wonderful thing. Hey, isn't Rashawn Gary his own business entity? Why isn't all these quote unquote, African-American led based companies supporting, talking about what we done and only we done in the history of this country? Why are they focusing on Sean Stiletto, whatever his name is, the guy that represented Tommy DeVito for 3 weeks? How do you know him and not know me? But you will.
He want to be in the forefront too.
Yeah, exactly. For doing what? Doing what? I just read down what we've done. At the end of the day, whether we supported, likes or follows or not, these are all facts. This is history. This is history. So going all the way back to that first conversation, I love Rashawn. Rashawn is a great young man. Still got a long way to go. Gonna be a great young man, but he wanted to be a professional. He was committed to his craft. And those type of people, we can help. Those that want to fake it till you make it, or pretend to be somebody you're not, or not call things out for what they are. So I originally mentioned Antonio Brown, but this is the point I'm making again, talking about business and companies and entities. But then you got Tyreek Hill again. Weren't they represented by the same people? Something about Antonio Brown is my idol. Listen, like I said, man, these people didn't become billionaires because they stupid. They didn't. Any representation don't continue to have more money than you are because they stupid. The billionaires have become a billionaire because they stupid. And your reputation don't end up having more money than you are because they stupid. So who's stupid? Who lacks professional development? Who lacks the character they need to have? Who lacks the ability to be what they were designed to be in the first place? A professional and a role model. That's the job description. You don't like it? Do something else. But wait. You can't do anything else. So this is what we're talking about now. We know how a lot of these guys' careers are going to end. Tragically. We know those same representatives are going to be in the same spot collecting money off of it, and nobody that's out there today going to actually say nothing about it because they're all part of the system. But like I said, I did everything I said I was going to do. Now, everything I laid out in this platform today on your podcast, again, I'm in black. For those who don't know, so while we go on it before it's over, just wherever it goes in, the players rep, even pre-post game, will not be around this industry too much longer by choice, because my quality of life is not predicated on being around people who understand my value and our value that we bring to them, despite the fact if they know it or not. When it comes to relationships, when it comes to development, when it comes to job placement, workforce, all the things that we do in this whole process of pre-post game, it's a two-way street. And what you find, athletes, you're going to find out the hard way, that most of your relationships are one-way streets, usually because of what you can do, now, not because who you are and what you're going to be, and therefore it's going to leave you with a huge empty space in your mind and your heart. And I pray doesn't end bad for you. But firsthand experience and knowledge tells me that's why I created pre-post game that you will. But as I said before, I can no longer allow myself to end up in that same situation that I worked so hard to make sure you guys will not. Real talk.
Man. Hold on, man. You can't be leaving too quick now. Still got some youngsters out here that definitely.
That's what you for, BallHawk. No. Like I said before, man, if you really knew, if I had 10 hours, I couldn't explain all things I've done for all I've done it for. I simply say around what you see. Everything has a play. If you pay attention, everything has a player's rep, a pre-post game stamp on it. It ain't all of a sudden the United States of America come up with a pandemic. You want to pay athletes, but people already forgot about We Are United, Big Ten United. Damn, they disappeared. Nick Saban talking about NIL and what players getting paid. Like, it's the same man that told everybody when the election in 2016, he didn't know there was an election. He was watching film. We supposed to Bleav that, right?
Yep.
He told us that. And at the same time, when all was said and done, what did this man really do about NIL? How did he support? See, I was around when they were talking about loss of value, LOV policies and insurance and PTD, permanent disability, when Nick Saban at the University of Alabama was a big proponent of not paying the players insurance. Meanwhile, Tua Tagovailoa almost lost his freaking life. Up 35-7. See, as a player, it's my job to know the history of this sport and bring it back to you less expected. So when Deion says keep receipts, I kept them. I keep them. And I advise on them. So when you go to a school and they allow you to play when you're not insured, and when you buy T-shirts in Colorado, it's assets over liabilities, but your star player, Travis Hunter, who you convinced to go to HBCU, which is the worst business that you could have ever made, to not be insured. But then you want to put out there, he's academic All-American. Oh, that's so sweet.
Well, when you say worst decision, like
worse
to go to the HBCU,
absolutely. You're the number one recruit in the country. Your goal is to go to the pros. We're talking business. We ain't talking about feelings. I ain't got no.
I'm glad we haven't discussed because this is a good discussion. Because a lot of people say, like,
I want HBCU.
You could change the dynamic and have these great athletes go to these HBCUs versus going to the PWIs.
And Reed needs professional development first. You need anger management classes. Don't talk to me about the HBCUs. I went to one. The fact of the matter, until we start leveling up our professional development, how we conduct business, there's no athlete that has a short term or short time to earn should go somewhere where facilities don't meet the standard and the coaching or lack thereof. You can't give them the opportunity where they need to be. There's fields out there that still, when it rains, it's a mud pond. But you want to say, oh, he went here, he went there. That's great. That's not business. That's not business. So if you really want athletes to come there, because again, as we talk to NIL, you haven't heard one African-American person in this business besides me. Besides me. How sad is that in 2024? How sad is that? Not one coach, not nothing. You know why? Because they don't even know what it is. They have nothing to do with it. And so now HBCUs can't even say, oh, come over here. Why? Because we ain't about to put that money into you. No. So I say to the athlete, do what's best for your business. But like I said, Deion Sanders wouldn't be in Colorado if it wasn't for Travis Hunter. So does Deion couldn't have to check the Travis Hunter? Because he couldn't coach defense in situational football at Jackson State, and he still can't coach it in Colorado. Trust the facts, not the process. Numbers don't lie. They were getting torched. Shador was getting, Silo, whatever his name was, getting torched at Jackson. He's torched at Buffalo. Shador was getting sacked at Jackson, getting sacked at Colorado. But we just want to feel good about it. But I know how this all going to end for all of them.
Deion is the one African-American coach everybody should support. But, hey, if you got an African-American coach at your college, they ain't Deion. You know what I'm saying? Like, our people sometimes just be confusing me.
I'm not supporting ignorance. 50 years old with your hood on. You don't talk to me about character. Don't talk about me professional. Talk about me being respectful when you sitting there with a hood on and glasses inside. You can't. Because you confuse people. Because you try to entertain the barbershop crowd and then you want to also make yourself look great in the corporate route. The players rep is good in every room. The hood room, the corporate room, the negotiating room, the PR room, the media room, the financial advising room, the marketing room, the transition room, everything. Been there, done that. So when I say these things, because you don't see a following behind me, well, let's follow the process that you see now that you want to complain about. Like I said before, I take great pride in saying that every athlete in America who happens to be a human being as well can now, this is what you call economic freedom and development. I gave that to them. It wasn't Rosa Parks or Martin Luther King or Malcolm X. That's the point. People still marching across bridges or want to talk about justice and hashtags. Ben Crump was nowhere to be found when I did what I did with Iowa. He didn't call my phone. I got death threats. This guy ain't this, he ain't that. But then I get what I did with Iowa. You pop up all of a sudden without Northwestern. You still didn't call my phone. You should have asked me about those kids in Northwestern. I'm the one who led that situation. Anybody talk about Northwestern now? Anybody from Maya? That's the point. That's the point. Everybody want to jump up in front of something like they did it, but the reality is, when the truth be told, in the United States of America, which I take great pride in, that's why I wanted to do this with you. This ain't about getting likes and followers from me. It's not even about getting. It's not even about getting money. Like I said, I did everything I said I was going to do. This is my living eulogy, the players rep. Because when I took the phone calls at pre-post game with all the athletes that I knew, people understood who I was as a person and the advice that I was going to give them, the direction I was going to lend them, those calls ain't going to be answered anymore in short order. And I'm good with that. I answer yours, but not Czars, just to be clear. And respect is respect. How do you want to take it? There's levels to this. And I've sat back and watched a lot of people take the seriousness of what we have accomplished and what's in front of us and dilute and devalue that. As I said again, to push us back towards indentured servitude, essentially in a digital platform and market. I don't care what, just to be clear, I don't care what the Congress say about NIL. I don't care what laws they pass. I don't care what NIL collectives say. I don't care what media talking heads, Winter, On 3, any of them say. If I want to provide service to anybody, athlete, transition, young, old, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it great. And there's nothing you're going to say to us or to the athlete about it. That's the reality of it all. There are people living off of things that are not real. And that's likes and follows. Yeah. I'm talking my services across the board, directly and indirectly, have helped generate and develop over $1 billion. The problem was, for me, I did it for them. Imagine what I can accomplish myself now if I took the same opportunity and knowledge that I have accumulated and put it towards me. That's what the rest of Robert T. Green life looked like. The players rep had his run. Yeah. But all good things must come to an end. And it's been real. And I'm unapologetic. I'm extremely proud for everything that we've done and what I said. Because the bottom line is, if anybody's going to be the person that's going to lead the next generation on what people are calling equity, because again, you can't have DEI and equity without knowledge. So as I said before, all those companies that's talking all that stuff, they ain't said nothing about this. The NCAA came into existence the same year, 1 month later or before the Leavenworth prison. 1 month for the freed slaves, for those who wanted to be educated, and for those who didn't have legal representation. You got trapped in one of those two boxes. And then for a state like Alabama that consistently, with a guy like Tommy Tuberville, who ain't qualified to tie your shoes, becomes the senator of the United States of America, who made a living off of sports trafficking, paying pennies to the dollar for unpaid labor, and then passing laws and bills that goes against the same people he helped make him a millionaire. And you justify that, and then to turn around and watch a guy that retired and Nick Saban in the same state now. If you're so retired, why is he still sitting there going on platforms talking about what he thinks? Who cares what you think?
Yeah, you retired.
You? Exactly. So you have an agenda, which we always knew, and I always told everybody. But BallHawk, did I not say he's going to get up out of here in the next 2-3 years?
Yes. You said it emphatically. He's not gonna last.
Say when I started this, my job, the play was to take down the NCAA.
Yes.
Okay. That's all I wanted to be known.
So on the record, what was the reason? Because look, you was the one that really opened my eyes to Alabama's program as far as you was like, BallHawk, look at their roster. And I'm like, yeah, they got a bunch of 5-stars. They loaded. You like, no, look at their ages. And the one that jumped out that everybody always talk about, they only talk about Calvin Ridley's age. But when you really go back and look at his, go ahead.
Said 19 years and 2 months out of high school.
Yeah.
Same age as Amari Cooper. But one is in the league for 3 years before the other one. But the coach is great. Yeah, that.
But when you really look at a lot of the guys in
Ohio State, Chris Ricks, 28 years old when he won a championship in Florida State, how that generated money for their revenue and their economy.
Oh, Chris Winkie.
Chris Winkie, that's right.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Chris Ricks is the other one from the other school. But then at the same time, Cardell Jones, who said we didn't come here to play school. He right. He was 28 years old when he won for Urban Meyer. All your greats. All your greats. All your greats. Not who they say they are. What have they done and what have they developed when those kids aren't grown men? And as I said before, it's specifically certain schools that purposely don't mention the kids' ages on their roster. Meanwhile, the NFL knows exactly how old they are. So however you want to take this, let me put this out there right now. Shout out, non-shout out to all the athletes that came back to school for another year because your agent behind the scene told you that you're going to get drafted higher along with your coach to make you think that you're going to be drafted in the 3rd or 4th round in a couple of weeks. Trust the facts, not the process. So you basically gave up millions of dollars to generate money for them. So the same way Nick Saban gets mad for you transferring going somewhere else, the same way he went to the school in Washington for the coach who literally took the job in Alabama without saying goodbye from the same person that said you shouldn't be doing that. But no, they shouldn't take care of their business. They only play for a short amount of time in years. But yeah, we should really listen to what you got to say about your thoughts and process and your feelings. Nah, we good.
Yeah, I just don't understand the scholarship.
No, I do. Control.
I understand it. I understand it.
Making your own decision in this business was never designed going back to 1906. That's the simplest way I can say it.
Say that one more time.
Making your own decision was not designed to be in this business since 1906. And that runs its course into your 20s. If you are talented as an entertainer or an athlete, you are developed, trained, and documented. Do what you're told till the wheels fall off. Full stop. And anybody that's been successful in this business, that's exactly what they did until me. Because I've been successful in it. And I developed them. Because I developed me. So I understood how to do that. Completely different business model. Not the same, not levels.
Let me ask you this, because I know somebody's probably talking to the speaker. Is being a professional, quote, doing what you're told? When you say be a professional, what falls into that?
Understanding your surroundings, the rules of engagement, terms and conditions. So again, when I talk about athletes, I say, and we teach, you're a professional the moment someone's willing to pay to watch you play. Because after that, everything they tell you to do is going to be in their best interest, not yours. That's why they pay to watch. So if you don't understand who you are, where you're trying to go, the rules of engagement on how to get there, to sustain once you're there, is going to be a short ride. But everybody else on that journey is being compensated on what you do. So if, for example, you want to be a first-round draft pick, the highest level, and all of a sudden now this new college football playoff thing, which people still ain't getting. Why 2 years ago when I said before, when it was 4 games, that at the end of the day, I started the hashtag skipping the bowl games. Say that again too. I'm the reason why they started skipping bowl games. Me, yes, proudly. Because if you understand football in particular, that sport, and the time frame for your audience to know and understand that in that transition, that literally from and now it's like 13, 14, but it's a couple of years ago, 11-game schedule, then go to a quote-unquote bowl game without any rest, then leave, and they got to do an interview process of training that you might get your combine, the pro day, then an all-star game, then after the all-star game, go to the combine, then got to get ready for the draft, then got to go to rookie minicamp, and then OTAs, now go into the league where you got 3 preseason games, which used to be 4, and then potentially, like Rashawn did, have to play 17 to 20 games because you made it to the NFC Championship game back-to-back years. How the NFL works, they drafted the game next year. So go ahead and get hurt playing in that bowl game in year 1. And then do the math on how long your career lasts.
Mm-hmm.
So when I talk about preparing your body where you're trying to go versus where you at, that's making an informed business decision. That's risk management. That's what gets players who want to be professionals to buy in and understand the realities of what this is. So while Nick Saban talking about, oh, insurance don't pay out, they don't do this, they don't do that. What's worse? Not having an insurance policy or being up 35-7 and letting Tua get his hip bones ripped out the socket.
Mm.
Why? In business, that's a conflict of interest. If you're so concerned about players doing certain things, Nick Saban leaving school, why don't you tell everybody about Joe Mendez and Cornerstone? There's a little group out here in Virginia. Because back in the day before NIL, we're talking about advising athletes to keep these kids who are projected true first-round draft picks. Once again, we consult people. So they have no idea how many people I consult throughout the years. But I'll let you know, it's a lot. It's a lot. So when you tell a kid to go to see this group, and this group is paid by the SEC and the ACC, when they give you a consultation, who best interested in they serving? The athlete or the conferences?
Conferences.
Exactly. You know who don't know that? The athletes think they get independent consulting.
But they were referred by the coach to this.
The ACC and the SEC. Nick Saban. So you talking about making decisions with a go and with a stay. Don't act like you ain't been a part of this, because I said before, your whole model was keeping those guys there on the bench for 4 to 5 years and tell them they're going to get drafted in the first round until they came to Alabama. The lies you tell. There's no NFL team and no NFL scout coach going to tell you that. Your film is your resume. They don't care how many games you won. They don't care how many games you won in AAU basketball. They don't care. And someone spoke about it the other day, and it's just true. The term coach. Anybody that say they want to be a coach can be one. That's the problem. That's the problem. Whether it's the guy in Florida from the Christian school that was cursing his kid out, or Urban Meyer kicking the guy in Jacksonville. These people are celebrated and basically put on pedestals because they was able to control a majority of large, unintelligible African-American athletes through decades. That's what made them who they say they are. Talk about his win-loss record. Okay, great. Compared to what? You got kicked out of the NFL because you couldn't be a professional around professionals. Saban? But they don't want to talk about that, though. We develop professionals. So don't go to Alabama if Nick Saban was there. Looks like that worked. So fact of the matter is, all these things we're talking about is a high level, and it shouldn't be high level. At this point, it should be common knowledge to understand what's in your best interest once you start to design your plans for life, what you're trying to accomplish. As I said before, look no further than what you're doing on your podcast and your platforms. Every day going to do a job as an employee, come back as a small business owner, commitment, understanding what you got to do to get the streams and the revenue, the sponsorship revenue, things of that nature, understanding your logo, your IPs intact, understanding interview questions you need to do, how to time up the interview, how to export it, how to chop it up. Man, that's a mouthful. That's what you do. You do that. What? I do that too. And amongst many other things at a high level. It's not what collectives do. It's not what sports agents do. It's not what universities do. So the reality is the people that's helping control, and you like to use that word, narrative, have no clue how to go about doing it. They better. You can be a consultant right now for every kid from UVA and give them more guidance and direction than anybody probably that's coming out of that's been there from an agent standpoint, start to finish. I can say that because I watched what you've done and what you do, and they need to understand more about how you operate it versus where everybody else does. The guys that were highly rated and had way more, got drafted higher than you, played longer than you, blah, 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 can't do what you do. Still in apartments with the NFL sticker on the wall when they got drafted and went round. Don't know where to start. Can't own a home. Don't understand real estate. Don't understand contract. And they're embarrassed and they're ashamed. And I understand. I was like that. That's why I did what I did. Athletes don't like to be ashamed about certain, they don't know and understand. That's why they don't be around certain people. That's why I'm saying people keep them in that bubble, like animals, like puppies. Like you got a bunch of pit bulls. You like this one? You like that one? Because what's going to cost you? That's exactly how these collectives are operating when it comes to these athletes. And the sad part about it is a lot of these kids and their parents and their AU coaches want them to be just like that. A lot of people are scared. A lot of people don't like the fact that when your athlete or your son or your daughter now level up in a mental thought process that you can't go to, you don't want that to happen. So you do everything in your power to keep them at your level, which is detrimental to their true development. We keep seeing that. Keep seeing that. So, at the end of the day, America, this ain't about NIL. This is about human rights, protections. This is about employment. This is about development. This is about truly being equal in economic development, bridging the wealth gap. Ain't nothing going. Money is not going to bridge the wealth gap.
Mm-mm.
You gonna take the same money and do what? Throw it back to the strip club. You're gonna see the same guy like Kanye West all of a sudden go for $6 million overnight because everybody told you he was in a certain publication to $400 million the next day. Make it make sense.
Yeah.
It don't make sense. Why are we in the business of basically trying to look a certain way when we're not? That when you go and you do these parties, you see these frames behind me. I'm sure you got framed jerseys. Them things are expensive. I ain't saying at the end of the day anybody can't get them, but they ain't cheap.
They're not cheap.
They're not hanging on the wall. There's no hanger sitting to the side. They're not folded over like this. I respect my career. What I went through and what I put myself through, and the mind can tell you when it comes to playing an arena, when we don't got CTE benefits, tackling 300-pound fullbacks that run 4.5s, when it's a car crash at every 5-yard line, when it's called high motion in the middle, and they crack down on the jack, and you as the middle DS, and the mind can speak, you got to replace.
Mm-hmm. Got to take that on.
On ice, on turf, with walls. Who said that was in the best for the athlete? Who made that decision? At the end of the day, we had in this league.
And they say play for the love of the game.
Right. There's no one that's representing any athlete. I don't care if it's the NFL or CFL that want to, like crossing the street. You got a better shot of walking across I-95 than walking across the high motion inside the 5-yard line. I don't know about today's arena. I ain't been there, but I can tell you about the arena I played in, that me being in the middle with bodies coming left and right, front and back, that 2,000 pounds of men, regardless of what you do, you hit that one, hit you at the same time. You pop up and do it again like nothing happened.
That's a fact.
This ain't about the NFL. This is about people understanding the risk they're willing to take and the reward they get out of that, and making an informed decision about what you do and understanding the ramifications of it. Everybody ain't built like that. So to say, oh yeah, Title IX, everybody should be able to play. Nah, everybody shouldn't be able to play. Everybody ain't got the skill set to play. We should be focusing on real education, real development. Everybody ain't about to run into these buildings anymore to basically get shot up at the school. That's why I said I'm talking about my development program, IP online. There's better things I can do with my time instead of going to a building for 3 hours a day and becoming an entrepreneur. Understand what it means to understand how to review a document, to build infrastructure, to read contracts, to understand my IP. Because like I said before, if you don't protect your IP in the world we're going in now, whether it's with AI or anything else, everybody going to take your stuff. Audience on LinkedIn, stop filling out those badges. You are giving that's machine learning. That's what it's called. They take your idea and say, oh, that's great. Here's your digital badge. The same thing they gave the children playing sports. Helmet stickers. They give it to you now as an adult. Make you feel good about yourself. Meanwhile, they're going to take your same information and sell it through a platform for $9.99 to 10 million people with the emails you just gave them from ING Academy at the youth soccer game.
Dang. That's
That's
true, because you will get on them mailing list. Hey, you've been invited to the so-and-so camp and all these Division I colleges of the
on your own. Like I said in the beginning, when the last time you made your own decision? It's at a time now where no one's going to make any decisions. And that's where these people in the collectives and their whole call NIL are setting up to basically control everything from a youth that plays a sport from the time that they're a kid to the time they're 27 years old. So it doesn't matter what you buy, what you put on your nails, what you put on your feet. They basically, once they get into your system and understand what it is, because numbers change, most emails don't. So that's third party, IP and things of that nature, and that's been that way for a while. But now, because everything is done through a digital platform and apparatus,
yep,
they're gonna get you. You're gonna make that decision because you ain't capable of making it on your own. And so, what we try to do to talk about independent ownership and development, they're trying to turn it back. Full disclosure, I won't be here to stop them. I'm just gonna make it known in my legacy history where I stand on that, because we don't want to see tears when you tell us you didn't know. It shouldn't be impossible to know. You got the same access to everybody else through technology and tablets and phones and YouTube and Google. So you either being lazy or you be ignorant, but both is unacceptable in 2024.
Yeah, and I mean, I really like what you said. Man, see, you talk about high motion. Sometimes I lose my train of thought just like that. But just like the decision making, I really like that comment, because when I reflect back on my career from high school to college, even starting out in the NFL and going to the AFL, you rarely made your own decision. Somebody was advising you. And I really feel like with the NIL, with the transfer portal being open, I'm an advocate of saying, why not teach these student athletes how to make their own decisions? Like, yeah, you think it's bad that they transfer every year, but as much as folks, always put in the forefront, this kid went from this school to that school, you don't talk about the 100 that went in that portal and got stuck in the portal,
or had that scholarship taken, or got called, or got told like the guy from Iowa, they're gonna send you back to the ghetto, or tell you can't wear your hair a certain way, or do certain things to you, or in this case, what would the kids be like if they had the transfer portal where they got away from Jerry Sandusky? I don't see them talking about that. Y'all good on that? I'm not.
That's what I'm saying.
Don't worry about what they do. They got to do what's best for them. We just wish they would make more informed decisions based off of that. But everybody that jumped that when adults attack kids, it disgusts me. And that's why I'm the president on my platform. Because I can assure you, no matter who the adult is or what level they've been or what they do, what the degree says or what certifications that they got, when we finish publicly, 20 minutes, I'm still here, you're not. Because you're speaking on things you are not capable and qualified to understand. And this is what this is all about right now. You can't be advising or telling somebody something you ain't never done, because you think it's what you know. You think that's how it is. Like I said, I really, whether it's the kids from Iowa or Larry Nassar or the Ohio State kids in wrestling, think about this country when it comes to sports. Those 5 things I mentioned just now, until the players rep, 3 out of the 4 didn't even happen, but all this stuff was going on prior to that. How many years those girls in gyms had to go through that stuff with Larry Nassar? How many of them, when they told their coach to help me and stop me, did nothing happen? Same thing in Michigan. Until the players rep showed up, where you realize I'm serious. I'll cost you your job, Gary Barter. I'll cost you your job, the highest paid strength coach in college football. I'll cost you your job, Urban Meyer told all university presidents. You can hire Urban Meyer again if you want to. Just know or not know if we're there or we're not there. Like I said, we may be in the room. We definitely in the cloud. Be very, very, very careful. I care nothing about your legacies, your coaching legacies off the backs of uninformed individuals. But I don't want people to think that I'm just coming down on the coaches, because the players have a whole lot of responsibility. And I mentioned some earlier. Some of these kids are growing up out of control, and they're not going to become great men. They may be talented athletically, but it's going to end in tragedies. I want to be first to tell the parents, stop basically giving everybody access to your kid because they tell you what you want to hear. Because some fictional youth program stuck a star behind them or gave them a helmet and made you think they're going to be the next this, the next that. The reality is 0.0001 make it to that level. And then out of the 1% that make it, 80% of the one go broke. So how are we doing the same thing over and over and over again? And trying to make light of it. And then, like I said, without these actual athletes, think about it. All these publications, the pre-post game, the BallHawk show, the coaches, none of this exists without the athlete, which we both once was.
Yeah.
So the revenue that we generate in this country alone, and you're trying to tell us our value, that without us, there won't be no fantasy betting, there won't be no fantasy football. You calling kids out their name, you threatening them, you call them doubt, they can't do this, they can't do that as human beings because you lost your parlay.
Yep.
Double hockey sticks your parlay on their behalf of them. But on behalf of them, if you're going to bet on a parlay, understand your contract says don't gamble, and you lose 11 million now, you got a gambling problem. I don't care what the media try to tell you. Your contract says don't gamble. This is your livelihood. It's short term. $1,500 and you risked 11 million and lost it. You have a gambling problem. You have a decision-making problem. You have a representation problem. You have a circle of influence problem. And you better get it fixed soon. Because losing 11 million off a gambling problem don't mean you're going to lose the next amount of money in the same process. Like I said before, we're not here, players are not here to make friends, tell the ball hawk all the time. I'm not here to make friends. I'm here for compensation and results. That's it.
That's it.
That's what it's about. And I can't get compensated in the results unless I do exactly what I say I'm going to do at the highest level. So we in 2024, we still operating in the business of sports and other things without understanding ownership. As I said before, you can't go anywhere in this country without seeing IP and ownership. Yet those that generate all the revenue have the least amount of it. But they college educated. It's beyond me, man. It's beyond me, but it's because of me. And that's a quote. Beyond me, but because of me. So,
well, man, you dropped a lot of nuggets. It's one of them interviews where they may get in their feelings, but in about a week or two, they're gonna be like, "Yeah, he was right." Because as you said, you don't operate in feelings.
No. And you understand what I went through, and again, you as a player understand the arena aspect of it, because usually when we play arena, you try to get to the next level. Mm-hmm. But that goal, we put the same time, amount of energy and efforts. We trained with guys. Again, I can tell you stories about Chad Johnson and Peter Warwick's house. We want to do that, but I'm not Shannon Sharp with them. I'm not here to basically try to get likes and clicks. I ain't a desperate housewife athlete.
Yeah.
So the reality is those things, you know, at the end of the day, there's a lot of stuff that makes you laugh because we train with those NFL guys. And you know, like I know, most of the NFL guys could never play in the arena. Most of the arena guys can easily play in the NFL, but that's not what the NFL wanted.
Yeah.
The best players in the world don't play on Sundays. I've seen it firsthand. I've coached it. I've watched the coach tell a player to come on a roster because he went to the SEC school and was trash. Lost my job because of it. But I told him, I said, as long as I'm the coach and that's on my name, he's not playing. I don't care if he came out of an NFL camp in the SEC school. He's terrible. But a 1AA player ended up being defensive player of the year for the Philadelphia Soul named Tracy Belton.
Mm-hmm.
That was the guy that I put in place and lost my job for instead of playing the SEC dude who was terrible.
My young buck with the Georgia Force that helped me go ahead and retire early because I said, Coach, you're in good hands with Tracy. I don't need to keep taking his middle reps and putting him to the boundary. If I go ahead and walk away, he's gonna be a star in this league. And he became a star.
I developed him as a player. I failed him as the other part because Tracy didn't like to listen. So I put that out, full disclosure. Tracy's one of those guys, again, that I told from day one that you need to understand more about life and what football entails. But his talent was immense. If he had the other level of professional development, Tracy didn't play on Sundays for a long time.
Yep. Yeah.
But the coach, the head coach, who just saw SEC NFL camp, couldn't even understand it. Couldn't understand it. But he's the coach, head coach.
Yeah, Tracy was nice.
Talent and understanding what you got in front of you is a skill set. And that's something that we take great pride in. Again, as a coach, which I wasn't at that point to say, yeah, this is what it was. So Tracy came in there, sent you home, ended up being the AFL Defensive Player of the Year. But like I said, that's another story that hasn't been told. I was his first coach. You know what first coach I was? Dante Williams. Dante Williams was the interim head coach for USC. First black interim head coach in USC history. You know why? I told Dante, he was playing the field corner, Dante, your hips too stiff. You went to Syracuse? That's great. But you ain't going to cut it in this league, brother. Focus on the game. Understand fundamentals. You know who didn't get that information? Deion Sanders. I'm real talk. So my point is, I don't care about your accolades when you played the game. Don't mean it translates what you do next. And people try to carry it along like you're doing something. The worst penalized team in football, in college football, is a real thing. You have to own that. Don't be telling kids and quote what they should do, how they do. You can't even do the job you get paid to do in the first place. As I said before, worried about what's in their pocket. But you're the same one, Neon Dion. It's crazy to me. It's crazy. And more people, and I don't want to say you, but more people who are the ilk of professionals or the ilk of confident in who they are, the ilk of doing things the right way, need to speak out more. Our youth basically see too many people are not who they say they are, and that's what they're going to become. Through their apparatus, their TVs, their cell phones, their all those things. And it shouldn't be that way. And like I said before, I know I said I'm about to do my own thing, which I am, but I can say I've done my part.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, I've done my part. My shift is run its course. Because when it comes to do these things without being supported the way you need to, even sometimes by those that you basically support, that was a sacrifice, and that was the understanding as a business owner, a small business owner that came with it.
Yeah,
it's not to get to the end goal, and that's what we done. So, as I said before, man, again, thank you for your time to give me to speak my truths in this space in this industry. It should not be hard for anybody to say anything to not be identified with. That's the biggest issue I have. People talk about representation. When we gonna have, instead of having these people come on these podcasts or these shows on ESPN where it's a softball scenario, why don't they actually have them somewhere where a producer's not in their ear? Like, put me in a room with anybody you want to put me in a room with. Let me ask some questions. Watch how quiet it is. At the end of the day, because when you ask a question about something that's legit, and because they're speaking about something that they want to make it seem like they're the influence on that they know about, why are you fighting? Why are you arguing with 17-year-olds? Why we got to talk about when things are happening in the NCAA when Dartmouth is the first school ever, quote unquote, in New Hampshire, majority Caucasian athletes understand their value, their rights, but the SEC don't get it. With all these players that play football and basketball, HBCUs don't get it, but Dartmouth, Ivy League gets it. Exactly. It's funny, but it's sad as hell.
Yeah.
Because what they just done is basically capitalize off the players' rep work. That's what they did. That's my work. They ain't doing that without me. No lawyers, none of these advocates had nothing to do with we are united. No, you can't go pay Trevor Lawrence to do a little slogan and say, hey, we need to come back and play. No, we're not interested in giving Dabo Sweeney another $55 million to build nap rooms and bowling alleys and arcade rooms for their facilities so the people can get tax deduction write-offs. Pay the players as employees, small business owners, or no pay, no play. And the last thing I'll say on that space is that if you don't believe what I'm saying, NLRB, National Labor Relations Board, if you want to understand how your economy can go upside down overnight, you don't got to be at a Power 5 school. Because when these teams and these trucks show up to cover a game, these referees, these announcers, these fans buy tickets, man, what a nightmare. These gambling casinos, these apps, what a shame it would be if one of a sudden one of these non-employees said, I don't feel good today. I think I'm going to sleep in. As they can. And there's nothing you're going to do or say about it but lose millions. And millions, as The Rock would say. Because the bottom line is they're students. They're not employees. Want their best efforts, then you'll pay them as employees, or you're going to find out the hard way. So I might come back one more time just to seal that deal. And like I said, people may or may not be in the room, but the players rep will always be in the cloud.
In the clouds. Well, I appreciate you, man. Thank you for taking time out today to share your views, information, your story. Definitely appreciate you always being an advisor to me and an advocate for me and helping me navigate through these different spaces, man. Yeah, bro, you do a lot, and you probably the only person I know that does a lot without trying to get the likes, the follows, like that. That's admirable, because everybody, as soon as they do something, look what I did. But you wait until you really stamp it and be like, nah. Only time I ever seen you say I did that is when somebody tried to take credit, like they did.
Right. Right. Because now they are disrespecting our work.
Yeah. Yep.
And this country is notorious, whether it's through music or whether it's other things. When someone takes your IP, which is intellectual property, and try to reframe it as theirs, oh no, we're not playing those games. And again, as an African American in particular, for me, as I said before, I'm not even being supported by my own community. As I said before, this is economic freedom that I have given to all athletes, white and black, but particularly the majority of minorities that play the sport. I've given it to you. Not the president of the United States, not your university, not your local politician. And I give it to you based on understanding what the rules of engagement are in this country, period. The things that will happen with the NCAA regarding them using your name, image, and likeness, or using intellectual property in the games was not something that literally they could do just because you signed it over to them because you don't read. You signed it over to them because you don't understand. You signed it over to them because you ain't made any decision in your own life. You've been sports trafficked since you came out the womb. You were the fastest kid on there, and what people figured out after the deal, going back to Danielle Monte as baseball, hiding your birth certificate.
Yep.
And that trickled all the way up to the University of Alabama and other universities in certain conferences. As I said before, when teams won national championships or got the championship games, how long was Michael Penix in school last year?
Like Bo Nix.
Exactly. And now you so great in college, the NFL says we're going to draft you later. That goes to show you when you are in a position or you want to become a professional, stop letting amateurs like Nick Saban and the rest of these people in our collectives deter or detract or direct your future when they have no clue what this is about. Ownership and development is all that you need. Ownership and development, because that's an individual-based thing. When coaches like Rick Pitino say to you, oh, gentlemen, when you've worked with the name that's on the front of your shirt, the back will take care of it. That is an absolute bold-faced lie. You made a living off of pushing your name Pitino. Period.
The name on the back is why a lot of these people here to watch the name on the front.
That's the only reason why. And that's why they call it recruiting. But once again, BallHawk, maybe you could put this out to your audience one day. Ask them, all chime in. What's recruiting? Ask them what recruiting is, and ask them in their schools. You tell us what they do to recruit athletes, and ask them how it works. Do they know? Man, you're gonna see the most uneducated answer you ever seen in your life. They have no clue. But yet the people that you run behind and they fall behind, they don't know what they do to get those guys there. Why don't you ask them?
School, I tell you that much.
Yeah, ask Nick Saban again. So next time you want to go on a platform, talk about somebody NIL and what they do and why they leave go places. Why don't you ask him how he got Amari Cooper and Julio Jones to leave Florida to come to Alabama? Then why don't you ask Chris Carter what happened to his kids, how he went from Ohio State and Alabama into JUCO? Ask them two right there how that happened. Ask them how the recruiting process went. Then you get back to me. So like I said before, Nick Saban and anybody else, for those that want to keep talking about things that they had no business talking about while they retired, understand I'm not the Desperate Housewife podcaster, athlete like some of these people. No, I'm not. I don't care what Shannon Sharp grandmother told him. I'm not calling him Unc. I come from New York, where if you go around the country when decisions are made, they making them. You're taking direction on them. So I'm not asking you anything. But the bottom line is, if that's what you're going to let be the person that basically tells you how to operate and move forward at the next level, we had a disadvantage, a big one. But I know how Julio Jones and how Amari Cooper ended up at Alabama. So like I said, ask one of these so-called analysts, how did that happen? Ask them about their recruiting process. Ask them why they made their decision. And then ones that lie and said, because I love the campus and we had a great tradition of winning, man, listen. Sports trafficking is real. Recruiting, parents who don't know, let me just say, y'all, is sex, drugs, and alcohol. But a lot of times underage kids that end up growing to be underage men in age alone that sometimes ended up on rape situations. They end up in situations where they don't understand how to take no for an answer because they've never been told before, based off the same recruiting tactics by your great leaders. Not here for it. Not at all. Like I said again, we develop men and women at the highest level. We stand on that business. We're the best at that business. And at the end of the day, there is no substitute for that business. Ownership and development is your key to success in life, in and out of sports. Trust the facts, not the process.
Pre-post game, Robert T. Green at the Players Rep on the X app, man. Make sure y'all check my guy out. Woo! I definitely appreciate you, man. This been.
I had to get up. Are we still live? We off now?
No, we are.
So this is how they went.